Tune in next week for AP's smashing story. Oh dear. Good morning, evening, and afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Expertzone TV ANZ podcast. We are on podcast number 48. 48. Now, we spoke about this last week, how Australia have tacked on to the monumental success that is the NZ podcast, but we are absolutely going to take that and we're going to continue to run with it and pretend that it was our idea all along. So welcome, guys, and thank you very much for tuning in. As you can see from the TV screen, we have some familiar faces and a not so familiar face, but might be a familiar face as well, depending on where you are in this kind of geographic region. So I'll introduce everyone to start off with Mr. Andrew Pearson, who is over there in Queensland. Hello, Andrew. How are you?
I'm good. Enjoying the weather up here. It's beautiful at the moment.
Fantastic. It's pretty cold over here in the west, so I'm a little bit jealous that you're up there. Yeah, I didn't think you'd care. I'll move straight on to somewhere where it might be a little bit colder or maybe just as similar as Perth. Mr. Fletcher Mayo, how are you over there in NZ, mate?
I'm amazing. The weather has not been so good. I was on the bumpiest flight of my life in a tiny ATR 72 aircraft yesterday, so but bit of the opposite.
That's cool, but you're here?
I'm here. I didn't die.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Already 30 seconds in and mentioned death. We're doing well. So, and the new smiling face you can see there with the headphones on is Mr. Daniel Mcavoy. He is our master trainer from New South Wales. He works with Darren Milton, who you've seen on the podcast before. But you may know Dmac is what we call him from. He used to actually work in NZ within the field as well. So you may know him there as well. Dmac, how are you, mate?
I'm very well. Thank you for having me. Except for you, Fletcher. I don't like you very much, but the rest of you are good.
Damn it.
It's always a weird kind of banter between two people from NZ. I don't quite understand it. See, when Brits get together, we shake hands. When Aussies get together, they fight. And when New Zealand people get together, they just insult each other.
No, when the Brits get together, when the Brits get together, you guys just moan about stuff.
Oh yeah, we love to whinge, but that's what brings us together. We shake hands and go, "What are you upset about?" And then we'll just whinge, like because I'll generally be upset about the same stuff they're upset about. EastEnders storyline's not really as good as it should be. You know, ice creams aren't ice creamy anymore.
Yeah, lots of things to whinge about.
There's a lot of
half of it peeled off when I opened it.
Yeah. All right, so that backfired. So we'll move on. But I think that what we'll do is we'll get straight into our first segment. Now, the first segment that we like to talk about, and we brought across from the podcast, the Australian podcast, the podcast. Yeah. We brought this across last week and it went down quite well. So we're going to bring back the nostalgia segment. I can see Dmac shaking his head here because he has to rack his brains and think of some stuff. But I come up with a new question actually that I thought it was new. We may have asked it before. I'm sure you guys will correct me if I've not asked this before. But the question I want to ask for the nostalgia segment this week is, what is your favorite piece of technology ever in your life, ever?
Can we preface it a bit? And AP, you can't choose the typewriter.
He's like, damn it. I feel like
you don't need to edit that out because people will be like, that poor guy has just copped it already. I'm surprised when you said this was the 48th episode that you didn't refer to someone's age as being close to 48. So
we're saying to it for our 100th,
mate. We're realistic. We don't want to make you younger than you are. All right. Dear,
sorry.
oh dear.
Do you need to do that again? You probably do.
Yeah. So, yeah, I want to know what your favorite piece of technology is ever in your life, ever. So from the moment you was born to now, AP, you've got slightly longer in time to be able to think about this. Fletcher, less so. But yeah. I think I would like to know what your favorite pieces of technology are. Go. Who wants to go first, actually?
You do.
Me?
Yeah.
Me. So my favorite piece of technology that I'm thinking back, and there was nothing that made me happier. It's going to sound really lame, but there was nothing that made me happier than my Tamagotchi when I was probably in year 5 or 6. That thing, that was the closest I think I ever came to love at that age. I fell in love with this Tamagotchi because it was a dinosaur, and you had to hatch it out of its egg. You had to look after it. You had to clean it, clean its poop up, and feed it food, and watch it grow, play games with it. And actually, having said that, now I would much prefer a Tamagotchi to the puppy that I have now, because it was really easy to clean up. You just press the button. Now you actually have to put in manual labor. So I'm still sticking with it, actually. My favorite piece of technology to this day was my Tamagotchi.
That's awesome. I just made a note of that so I can bring it up in as much presentations as we do together as possible. That is burned into my brain. Oh man, mine's along the same lines though. When it comes to it, and man, this was a really hard one. Like, your favorite piece of technology, and we're all like technological fans, right? And we work in that industry, and we've worked in that industry for so long. I see Dmac being like, technological, that's not a word. But my favorite one has to be my Game Boy Pocket. And I loved my Game Boy Pocket growing up. I saved my pocket money and I went to Cash Converters, which is like the local pawn shop, and spent $80 on that and Pokemon Silver. And then I frittered away too much of my life trying to catch like Lugia and stuff like that. I loved it. And then when I used to go to Mitre 10, which is like, you know, Bunnings Warehouse Mitre 10, good thing you guys actually have those in Australia too, of course. And we used to get like 24 packs of batteries. And then I found out that I could play it plugged in non-stop. And that blew my tiny little brain, and proceeded to me wasting even more time trying to catch Lugia on Pokemon Silver.
I don't think that's a waste, mate. That's time well spent.
It's too,
Crazy, man.
Crazy.
I saw Dmac all of a sudden. As soon as Pokemon was mentioned, I saw Dmac kind of sat up in his chair and had an agreeable nod that I saw going on there.
Yeah, I'm with you now.
You could probably flash back to it, Fletch, if you wanted to cut this back in. You could probably flash back and zoom into Dmac having a little sit up and a you know, an agreeable nod. There was definitely one there. So yeah, well done. Yeah.
No, because I'm actually level with both of you there. The Tamagotchi, but I actually had a Digimon instead of a Tamagotchi, which I really got into. The little Digimons, they work exactly the same way, but you had to evolve them. Yeah. And they were pretty cool. You could battle your friends if you connected them together, which was revolutionary at the time.
But then I dropped that one, isn't it? Yeah.
Was it hard for you to get your hands on one? Because I remember those Digimon things, and we've got a big chain called the Warehouse, and we call it the Tawari Whare. And like, I wanted to get one of those Digimon too, but every time I went in, they'd sold out.
Yeah, they were sold out once. I got one and I lost it in a paddock, and then I couldn't find it again. Yeah, so I was heartbroken. That's why when you said that, Steve, I was like, you just shot me through the heart. But Fletch, it was actually pretty funny, my Pokemon story, and maybe this isn't the greatest thing to say to everyone, but my friends came over from next door and they installed an emulator on my mum's PC way back in the day, old school PC, and I could play Pokemon Yellow on that. I had all the cheats. I knew where to fish up rare candies, and it was pretty cool. So I can definitely level with you guys both there. But my favorite technology, I'm thinking out of the box here, thinking out of the square. My favorite piece of technology right now, and for all time, has to be the dishwasher.
I second that. That.
That's great. That's
Man,
so good.
There's nothing else. Maybe a microwave brings me about the same amount of joy, but the dishwasher is just that's my bro, and it always has been. So
have my back like nothing else in life.
Yeah, exactly. And I do have. I'm a tech fan. I'm a tech fiend. I try and understand what we work with down to a granular level. And I do become quite a fan of the technologies that we touch, but something like that, man, that's made an impact in my life. I have more time to play video games because I'm not doing the dishes, and get to hang out with my friends and family because there's another hour there in the day. Yeah.
Maybe we could start a whole entire new podcast called the Dishwasher Podcast, where we deep dive into things like the Samsung Water Wall and ESCO and all that. I mean, that sounds like a plan.
I feel like there's a completely separate podcast there where we could just talk about the things that we achieved because we have a dishwasher.
Yeah.
Like, what we've achieved in life.
Or the world in general. Like, you can think and extrapolate how many people there are in the world with dishwashers and how much time they've saved.
Absolutely.
It's
Absolutely.
true. What I love, Dmac, though, is going to your points, is your first point. I noticed you like spending time with friends and family. That was definitely on there, but I think that was fourth on the list. Like, first on the list was playing video games. It saved me so much time to be able to play video games. Oh yeah, and my family as well. Like, that's probably should be switched around. I don't know.
Yeah. All right, AP, on you, mate.
Oh, me. Well, as no surprise, my favorite piece of technology is electricity, because that came on when I was only young. And then I was going to say color TV. No, it wasn't that really. No, my favorite piece of. Hey,
Uncle Edison. How was
Mr.
that when
Edison,
Uncle Edison was?
I think he used to live down the road, actually. He came up with this good idea one day. No, I think my favorite piece of technology, and this will taken everyone back, is my first cassette player, and it was one cassette, and it had its own speaker and its own microphone in it, and I think I got it for my maybe 5th or 6th birthday or something like that, and it was my everything. So I could record. My dad used to record records onto the tape player, so I could listen to them, and then I could play my piano or whatever and sing into it and make silly tapes and all that kind of stuff. But if you think about it from a technology level, about like where we've come to from now, like, people don't really even have physical media anymore, really. It's all streamed online, and prior to that was a record player, and they sound great, but if you want to skip a track, you got to go stand up and move the needle. You got to change it. It's not something a kid can really use, right? So the ability to have something, the size of a pack of playing cards that you could put heaps more music onto and fast forward and rewind and all that kind of stuff. And for me, and it is a nostalgia section, so like bedtime stories and all that kind of stuff, and that kind of changed. It changed the way, because I couldn't put an LP player in my room because A, it's too expensive and too big. So I think that probably would have been it. And then probably, when I grew up a little bit more, probably having like a Walkman, the cassette Walkman. The same sort of thing with the tapes. So, it sounds pretty old, but, like when we think about what we're doing now with like AI and all that kind of cool stuff, like how far have we come in, even though Steve will say 100 years, but it's not quite 100 years. It's realistically a short amount of time. So yeah, that's probably my favorite piece of technology, I think.
You know what I saw? It wasn't that long ago, actually. I saw a video on social media, and it was a kid that was given, his dad gave him an old cassette and asked him what he thought it was and what he thought it could do. And this kid was with his sister and other brother, and they were sat there and they had no idea what this thing was. And when eventually the dad turned around and said, "Okay, so I'll give you a hint. There's music in that," and they were like, "Okay, like an MP3 player. Where's the MP3? Where's the button? Where's the play button?" And he was like, "I'll let you guys figure it out." They were literally putting their fingers in the holes of the cassette and doing this with it to try and get it to start up and things like that. They were pulling out the cord, the ribbon, and then going, "So what do we do with this bit? Like, is this what you wear around your neck?" They had no idea what they could do with it. And I thought that was really bizarre.
That brings up a really good point, because in OneNote's picture dictionary, I've been demoing a heck of a lot at education events lately, and what I do is I go into Word and I do the equals rand and get like a whole bunch of demo text, and I'll copy that into OneNote so we can look at Immersive Reader, and one of the first words in it is video, And when you click on video, it shows a videotape. And every time I'm like, I don't think any of the kids at schools will know what that is anymore. Like,
ever.
Not ever.
It's like it's a lot of the time as well. The save icon is a little floppy disk, and yeah.
And it's weird that when they went to the 3.5-inch floppy disks, well, they weren't really floppy anymore. But I think some of us that are still working in the industry remember the 5.5-inch disks. But my dad was working for a telco company back in the day, and they had 9-inch disks, so almost the size of a small pizza, right? And its storage was 28 kilobits.
Wow.
Right? Like, can you imagine? And that was their data store record for everything. So he showed me one day. I don't know, he's probably still got it as well too, because I always think floppy disk, but these things were literally floppy. It was incredible.
I don't think I've got a document on my computer that is 28 kilobits.
Yeah. Exactly.
That's bizarre. Well, good. Thanks, guys. I like that. I think that was a good little question. I'll try and think of something that's not been recycled from a previous podcast for next week's one. But let's move on, because Fletcher, I know you want to talk a little bit about again, trickling down some information that we got from Thailand at the TTT event. You want to talk a little bit about subscription selling, is that right?
Absolutely, because last week, for those who haven't seen it already, Steve took us through Office and breaking down, that at the moment Office is only being mentioned 14% of the time in store, when RSPs are actually going through that sales process, right? And so if you haven't checked that out, definitely go back and watch it, because it is full of really valuable information and insights that Steve brought to us. But it really got me going. It got me passionate, and I thought, let's keep building on this and go into subscription selling, right? Because we know, hearing from you guys who are in the field, you retail pros that we deal with all the time, or even a lot of you customers who watch this podcast that use Office 365. You guys are still getting around to the idea of being a subscription, right? And it is something that people are getting used to, and it's something that is permeating through our lives and through the technology we do use now. So I really wanted to deep dive into it and see how we could, really change our mindsets on how we view a subscription and how we try to give that subscription value when we are talking to customers. And the key to that, and the key that we were, talking about and discussing in Thailand, is that a subscription really needs to show value and show that it is genuinely needed in your life in order for you to continue to pay for it, right? Otherwise, you're going to cancel it. Like, why would you keep paying for it if you don't actually think that it's going to add any value to what you do? And when we look at the subscription services most of us use now, like, what do you guys use? Spotify and Netflix, obviously. Is there anything else?
Crunchyroll,
anime. Yeah, there we go. I love it.
It's KO for watching Formula One, sort of like the sort of cocktail offset for sports stuff.
Yeah, I use something called NFL Game Pass when the NFL season's on as well, and so that's the same. And all of those are entertainment ones, right? They're all built around some sort of entertainment service, which is what we fill our spare time with. So it makes sense that we want them and need them in our lives. But when we look at Office, it's not an entertainment service, right? So we've got to look at it differently and look at how we can talk about that value and understand the value that it'll actually genuinely put into our life. And to me, the key point that Office gives you is time back into your life, right? Because it's a productivity software, and I think that's something people often forget is Office is built to be productive. Technology is built to make us more productive in general. That was the original purpose, to make our lives easier, right? So it's continued to evolve, and particularly Office has continued to get so many features that end up saving us time. And when we're in Thailand, we got asked, about stories that kind of build up on that. So I want to actually put Mr. Andrew Pearson on the spot. We built this up last podcast. It was our hype machine. But do you want to tell us that same story you told in Thailand?
Yeah, sure. I just remembered that you said that last week.
No, it was AP's smashing story.
AP
Was it the reporting one? Because I got a couple.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. So I've got 3 kids now, 5, 3, and 1. And at the time when my son was born, so Caleb at 5, I just started this job, and I got tasks with Expertzone, which you all should be pretty well aware of. And the reporting on that is it is what it is. It comes out in a big CSV file, and I had limited experience in Excel before. And one of the things that we had to do to make sure that we could filter it properly was be able to split cells out, which is not an uncommon thing to do. So split, like Steve Nolan out and put it into 2 different cells. But because there were 7,000 users, you can imagine how long that would take if you did it manually. Not having any experience with formulas, I'm sure there is a way that you can do it, but there's so many different delimiters and that kind of stuff. There was a new feature that came out in 2013 Excel called Flash Fill, and it was kind of an AI-based, algorithmic-based feature that sort of looked at the data following and made assumptions about how to split that up. So long story short, it used to take me all day for a couple of days a week to be able to split that data out to be able to produce the reports. But because of that feature, it saved me 6 hours a week. And that's great. But what did that mean to me? That meant that I could leave work at 4 o'clock instead of 6 o'clock and go home and help my partner with my new baby, right? And so for me, even if I wasn't working for Microsoft as a consumer, if I was having to do that on a day-to-day basis, that's something I would pay $120 or whatever the retail price is, for Office 365 in your region is. I would pay it just for that, to get my time back, because you can't buy time, unfortunately, but you can certainly get it back in different ways, and that really worked for me, and I was obviously very appreciative of it at the time. It doesn't really seem like a big deal at the time, but now when I think about it, like saving that amount of hours a week, it's pretty amazing for a feature that just got thrown in. So
that's cool. And like you telling that story got me really, really passionate about thinking about similar ways that Office 365 does that for you, right? And like I totally agree. With baby coming on the way for me, I'm glad that I do this as a job and know about a lot of these features, because that means I'm going to get time back in my life to do it. And like when we break that value down to monthly, it's 10 New Zealand dollars. So that's like about 8 Australian dollars, and that's giving you back like $8 8 hours plus a month, or 2 hours a week. Even just that is worth it. I would pay $10 if I could add 8 hours a month onto my life and do extra stuff that I wanted to, right? So that's pretty cool. And those features aren't just in Excel. Like when you look at PowerPoint, in my experience, the hardest things to overcome when starting up a PowerPoint is you procrastinate about getting your actual outline there, and then you procrastinate even harder about making it look nice. And in PowerPoint, you've got features like Quick Starter in there, which will build that entire outline and design your slides. Or you've got Designer if you need to get a bit more specific, and you chuck a picture in, you chuck some text, and it'll come up on your side pane in 365 saying, do you want it to look this mint? And that does it way better than I could do it, right? I'm not a designer by trade, so it's going to make it look nice and polished. And Word, like anyone who's a university student knows the pain of citations and losing marks when you don't cite right or don't get your bibliography right. And Word has 2 features that overcome that for anyone who is a student. There's Researcher. So you just type that in Tell Me, the little search bar at the top, and it'll bring it up for you. And that will enable you to go through sources, whether it's scientific journals or websites, whatever, and add in quotes, and it'll cite for you. And then you can change it between referencing styles if you reuse that assignment ever, or you can actually just insert a citation, which is manually put in the publisher and the author and stuff, but it still guarantees that it's in the right way for you, right? So you don't lose marks, you don't lose sleep about panicking about having that comma in the wrong place. So there are things permeating through the whole Office suite, and I would actually challenge anyone who is watching this, who works in the field, who is someone who uses Office 365, or who's a retail pro, to try these features out for yourself and really understand the time that you'll get back in your life. Because once you do that and you understand, that all of a sudden makes it way more understandable about why you would pay for the premium version of Office and invest in that. So that's my little spiel, guys.
And they've got, remember Fletch, they've got the Office demo toolkit available as well too, with like the whole, you know, if you're not sure how to do the research demo, there's step-by-step guide, there's some GIFs and videos, and that's available to everyone. Maybe we can overlay that at the end or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
I think even something in retail that I used to see a lot when I was traveling in stores was the customer that would come back with a device that was broken, or something that they've damaged themselves, asking the salespeople to move their data over. And I think a big time saver as well, just to tack on the end there, is obviously the OneDrive storage. It used to be a service that you would see in every computer shop, that you could pay $100 and somebody would sit down and move your data from one laptop to another, but that's just built-in feature, or a built-in feature, sorry, of OneDrive now, if you're utilizing that.
And we even brought up, like, if you are someone who gets Office for free for a business, or your customer is, that doesn't mean that they get OneDrive, right? They don't get a personal OneDrive they can put on their devices. So I'm glad you brought up that point, because no matter what, someone is going to find value in having OneDrive to sync across all their devices. And there's even going to be people who see the value in getting 60 free Skype call minutes. Like Steve, his family's in the UK. If his parents didn't have their computer, if they didn't have internet at home for a day, but they still had their landline going, he can use that to get in touch. If you're overseas and your credit card gets hacked and you have to call your bank but don't want to get charged fees, you use your 60 Skype call minutes to do that.
I used to use my Skype minutes, no word of a lie. I use this story quite a bit, but I used to use my 60 Skype minutes every single month, ringing my nan on her landline and talking her through how to launch Skype on her iPad, so we could then literally, I guarantee you, every single month, at least half of those 60 minutes were used up calling my nan and talking her through how to launch Skype on her iPad. So I mean, they're not necessarily features that we always use, but they're there when we need them. And like OneDrive being a huge one for that. So we all have our own phones, but when we sign in, we all sign in with our work email addresses on our phones. And when you do that, we've got kind of high security features on our devices, which means that if someone tries to open your phone up, I think if they put your passcode in incorrectly more than 5 or 6 times, as a security feature, no matter whether it's an Android device or an Apple device, as a security feature for working for Microsoft, that phone wipes. So it thinks I've been stolen and someone's trying to get all of the sensitive information that's on this phone. I'm going to wipe. So it completely wipes itself. And I've had that happen now on 3 occasions, because I have a very light-fingered daughter who likes to try and put the passcode in 1,000,001 time and then go, "Oh no, Daddy, your phone's reset itself." Like, well, it's so, like butter wouldn't melt, but it literally every single time my initial reaction in my head was, "Oh no, all my photos, everything," because I'm a happy snapper. If there's a memory or something to be had, I'll just quickly take a photo of it. And I won't see that again until a year later, when the phone comes up and says, "Hey, this is something you did a year ago. This is something you did 2 years ago." And you can kind of relive those memories and relive that time. But they all get wiped. But thankfully, everything backs up to OneDrive. So as soon as I take a photo on any phone, as soon as I take a photo, bang, it syncs straight up to my OneDrive account. So when my daughter does put the passcode in too many times, my photos are still there. Apps can get back. Saves me time not having to go into my office or go somewhere else and sync my phone to a physical device, which again, if that breaks, I think I've bored AP. If that breaks, like that means, I lose all of that data. But so OneDrive for me is a good one, but it also got me thinking, everything is about time. Like everything is saying, everyone is saying about time. If somebody was at your house when you got home from work and said, hey, just give me $10 this month, and I will, every time you get home from work, I'll make sure that your house is tidy, your dishes are done, you don't have to do any vacuuming or mopping or anything like that. It's only going to cost you $10. Right? You're going to get all that time back. Go out and do something. Go and spend a couple of hours, go and do something. Go have a beer with your friends, or go and do some gaming on your computer, or go and watch a football match or something like that. If someone did that every month, if someone was stood outside your house and said, here you go, give me $10 and I'll do that for you every month, I don't think there's one person on the planet that will go, nah, it's all right, I'll do all that myself. But if you think about the time that you're getting back from doing any of this productivity applications, whether it's Word, whether it's Excel, like with AP, whether it's OneDrive, any time that you're getting back for $10 a month in NZ, about $8 a month in Australia, you know, to me, it's a no-brainer now. When you think about it like that, the amount of time you're getting back thanks to the productivity, it's a no-brainer. It's something you can't live without.
Agreed. I just don't know if you had turned up to my front door and said, "Oh, give me $10 and I'll sort it out for you." Pretty much, I think every time I'd turn you away.
What I'm actually doing is I'm asking everyone in your apartment block for $10, and then I'll just leave and go to the next one, and I'll see how long it takes for people to cotton on.
It sounds like a Steve thing to do. Can't trust the Brits.
There's money to be made. There's money to be made.
Yeah, now we're seeing your true colours.
Cool, Fletcher, thank you very much, mate. That was really good. It was a good insight, and it's a nice kind of trickle on from last week with the Office. Everybody needs Office story as well. So we're going to move on to a little bit more kind of light-heartedness now. We sent Mr. Andrew Pearson away on a field mission, and that field mission was really difficult for him. It was for him to play Xbox for a few hours during a work day. So I'm sure it's nothing he's not accustomed to already, but it was something that we thought we would give to him as a special task. AP, you've been playing some Forza, is that right?
Yeah, I have. I've been playing Forza Horizon 4, which I haven't played a whole bunch of lately. I love cars. That's pretty much the only gaming I do. I've been playing it since like Gran Turismo 1, back on PlayStation 1. So I'm more of a round the track guy. But I was happily surprised when I played Horizon 4. It is an open world environment, which is kind of new for racing games, I guess. Probably not for first-person shooters and that kind of stuff, but for racing game. I mean, the franchise has been around for a while. If you guys who are listening have played Horizon 3, it's actually based in Australia, which was pretty hilarious. And it was based on the Gold Coast, which is very close to where I live. And even the telephone boxes were the same, and the bins were the same, and the signs, like I've been there so many times in my life. What was hilarious about that was that people from overseas really thought that Byron Bay was only like a 10-minute drive to the Great Ocean Road, which is about 2,500 kilometres away. So despite that point, the new one is based in the UK. So there's some really, which is awesome. So there's lots of different things, and the new things that they brought through for this game is probably in some of the past games there's sort of had dry, wet weather. It's kind of pretty standard stuff. In Forza 7, I think they had dynamic weather, so it would rain, start raining in the race. But with Forza Horizon 4, you've actually got seasons that tick through. So you get summer, spring, autumn, winter, that kind of stuff. And if you're not a car person, you probably can't conceive how difficult it is to drive the same in those conditions. So if you go into winter, you've effectively got no grip, regardless of the tyres that you put on the car. And if you need to go off-road, you need to change the ride height and all that kind of stuff. So what I really love about it, probably the most, and that I was most surprised and happy about, is that the physics engine that Turn 10 are using in Forza 7, so the more sort of serious racing game, is the same one that they're using in Forza Horizon 4 as well too. And the detail is ridiculous. It really is. Like, I just don't understand how they can get each of these individual cars, and there's so many cars to choose from. It's in 4K with HDR as well too, so it looks amazing on TV. or on your monitor if you're playing it on that. But they've even gone down to details like there's a Ferrari, and I've got to get the right name of it. I think it's a 612 TDF. Don't ask me what TDF means. It's some Italian thing for going faster. They actually got a braking system. So to cool the brakes. So when you put the brakes on in the car, these little ducts open up on the front spoiler and cool the brakes and stuff and even that works in the game, right? So it's an absolute masterpiece. So that's really cool, and you can go and drive different conditions. Because I've been playing for so long, I'm used to sort of just playing on my own, really, and just sort of doing the races that are built in. But, with the online ability now, you can play online, you can play with your friends, you can have like teams, almost like car meetups, almost like in real life. People go and meet at different spots with the cars that they're enthusiastic about and all that kind of stuff, and chatting with friends. So I think that's a really cool addition to an open world game. And it is quite refreshing, actually, sometimes. I felt it quite refreshing to play rather than going around the circuit all of the time, which is not everyone's cup of tea. And making your own tracks, making your own challenges that you can challenge your friends with. And just the car updates that come through for Forza Horizon 4, like Mclaren is a really famous brand. Started in NZ, actually, with Bruce McLaren. It did, and they've had some iconic supercars with kids would have put posters on their wall from the beginning of time. Have just released probably the most special car that's ever been released, at least in the last 10 years, and that's the Mclaren Senna. And it's named after Ayrton Senna, who's a race driver. If you didn't know that, it's very famous. And this thing is just it's ridiculously quick. It's so much faster than everything that's been around, and it's only been out a little while, and it's already in the game, and you can go and drive it as part of the packs that come through. I think that might have even been a freebie on the game pack, because you can buy the game passes as well too, which is super cool. And if you do buy the premium edition, it's not. I can't remember how much more it is. I tend to do it so you get all the cars to start with. And you get a delivery of cars, of new stuff every week, different theme. But even it's not just the new stuff, right? Like you can go back and drive like E-Type Jags and stuff that go for $400,000 in Australia, that break down all of the time, that I'll never be able to afford. But because of the detail that they go into in this game, it's like you're owning it. And you can drive like you're inside. I don't use a wheel, but you can get a wheel and pedals, all that kind of stuff as well too. So I think it's changed my view really of an open world kind of game, and I think I'll be playing a lot more of it, and probably doing something I typically don't do and play online actually. So I think it's going to encourage me to play online with some people and do some racing and create some clubs and stuff, which is cool. So it might be, for the gamers out there who are sort of hardcore enthusiasts like me, it doesn't really matter what you're playing on or what platform it is, but give it a go, and I think you'll be massively impressed. I certainly was. So do I need to rate this, Fletch, or something?
Yeah.
Is this I feel like this was building up.
We're absolutely gonna get you to rate it. I have to say, just before I ask you the question, I'm looking forward to you playing online, because one of my favorite things to do in Forza Horizon 4 is check how fast everyone's gone past the speed cameras and try to go past them faster. I love those little details. Really cool. Challenge accepted. I have heard a rumor, AP, and I'm spiraling before I ask you this, but I think we have to get this out there, that you are now a more favourite son to Craig Jackson's parents than he is, because you played Forza with his dad.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah. And so you've just kind of muscled in and replaced him in the family hierarchy.
Like, really? He said, please, can you come around and show me your ways on my projector screen so I can be a better driver? And I just went, you got to give, don't you?
There we go. So now when AP goes to Adelaide, where Craig Jackson's from, he gets invited to go over for dinner, even if Craig's not there.
Purely to play Forza with his No, that's good. But what rating do I need to give here? Ooh, because this is new for me.
Yeah. So we did ratings based off of 3 different areas for game reviews. So we do overall gameplay, we do graphics, and then we do storytelling. So each segment gets its own rating out of 5 Ninja Cats. So it can be 1 being really bad, 5 being absolutely perfect, and then you give it a rating based out of Ninja Cats on those 3 subjects.
Okay, cool. So first, overall gameplay.
Yeah, gameplay overall.
Okay. Probably give it. Can I give half? Like, can I give like 3.5? Yeah, 3.5. There's one annoying feature in there that I think is built in, and I can't back this up with any, technical spec. That when the faster you go, the more likely you are to run into trees if you're running off road or other cars, and as you slow down, you're less likely to run into them. So that's a bit annoying if you've got a bit of skill sometimes, if you're trying to flow through some stuff. Aside from that, it plays beautifully. Like it renders really quickly and all that kind of stuff. And to the next point, like the graphics, it has to get a 500,000 Ninja Cat star out of everything. Like the change between the seasons, you're driving on the same ground, but that's now covered in snow. So there's still fences that are under the ground that you can't see, and it remembers that kind of stuff, right? Like it's incredibly beautiful. It's like, yeah, it's like a piece of artwork, really. And the cars, sometimes, and this is going to sound real nerdy, I just go and do like there's a Forza Vista view that you can go in, so you can just basically like walk around the car and you can take photos of the car yourself. That's how lonely my life is. But so we would get a 5 million Ninja Cats out of 5 for that. And the last one, Steve, was
storytelling.
Yeah, storytelling. It's good in this game. I'm just trying to put some context around it. There's a great storyline for people, and I think I mentioned this before, but the other thing I really liked about this game is that I think it will get the younger generation, like kids, more so into the racing games, because to be honest, Forza 7, it's a fantastic game, but it's not easy. And if you haven't played racing games before, it would get real frustrating. And I think that the ability for for kids to be able to play this stuff as well is really cool. So probably give it a 4, I reckon. 4 Ninja Cats out of 5 on that.
Good.
So yeah, great.
Ninja Cats, 5 million Ninja Cats, and then
just as I can. 5 million.
It's going to be overpopulated on the screen with Ninja Cats.
That's exactly. Absolutely. If you're a racing fan, guys, and you particularly do that, check it out. It's great. It's one of the best sort of open source ones not open source, but open world ones that I've played.
He had a really good tagline in there, and he didn't know that he'd said it, but he called it. He was like, "It's an absolute masterclass." And when you said that, I was like, I cannot think of a better way to describe that game, because it is absolutely stunning. It's amazing. So, an absolute masterclass.
Such a solid title too.
Yeah,
we'll have to stream it for everyone as well, Steve, so they can all check us out on our Mixer channel.
Yeah,
we'll stream it up.
We'll jump on the Game Pass
library games.
We'll bring Mr. Andrew with us, and he can show us the ropes on Forza Horizon 4. I'll take you from Stonehenge to Edinburgh in 5 minutes.
Sideways.
I'll explain it all on the way. But I think that the AP can give us some context around the game as well. That'll be good fun. We should definitely do that. AP, thank you very much for doing that, mate. Thanks for the review. It was a really good review. I'm sure it was hard work playing Xbox as well.
It was very difficult. Yeah.
That's cool. All right. Well, look, we're running out of time, so we have got one more segment that we want to cover in here, because it is Mr. Daniel Mcavoy's first ANZ podcast, and he has a segment that he owns all to himself on the previous podcast that we did within Australia called Dmac Does the News. I have been told that he did have intro music that he did himself, and that he has told us that he is not going to do. But I figured that if I put pressure on him on the recording,
Sorry.
That's a great intro. Thank you very much, AP. If you would like to make some intro music, Steve Nolan, I'd love to see some being created from your.
I think Willy Wonderland is perfectly suitable for every DMX the news from now on.
But this one here is there's way too much news because I haven't done the news for so long. So I was looking back for like 9 months and I had to pull myself in, which is ridiculous. But I've got a couple really key points here that I'd like some discussion from the forum from you guys. Instead of me just presenting it and telling you all the fun things. But Sony and Microsoft have just signed an agreement. They've shocked everyone. It's kind of been a big wow in the gaming world. That Sony is going to be working on a cloud gaming platform with Microsoft's Azure platform. And so it's going to be built in the same place. It doesn't mean that the upcoming xCloud platform is going to be the same as what Sony come out with in the future. But what it means is that Sony are going to be utilizing the technology that we have built in our data centers around the world. Microsoft Azure is actually a platform that has now become one of the world leaders in terms of cloud compute and cloud platforms out there. And to go against what Google are doing and to match up against it, Sony have chosen to build with a really powerful partner in Microsoft. And it very much does talk to the fact that a lot of our partners out there are our competitors in different spaces. Just in the same way with like devices, etc. out there, there's a lot of times where we partner with those individual organizations that we compete against. So did you guys see this news? Did you hear about it?
I heard
headlines
about it. Yeah, and I think that that's a really cool thing, because it is gamers are gamers, right? It's the same like the car racing, right? Just because you like a Ferrari and someone else likes a Lamborghini, everyone loves racing. So in the collaborating and using that stuff, it's just more for the gamer. So I was very surprised, but very happy actually to hear that.
Yeah, me too. Yeah,
super progressive in what has traditionally been a very competitive industry, market area, segment of the business, whatever you want to call it, traditionally been super competitive, and to have that partnership with a powerful person, we're extremely we're at the forefront with that as well. But to the two big giants of the gaming world joining forces, good things are going to come of that, and it's great. It's again, super progressive.
Yeah, I think it's a really good step. It does very much fit into even our company mission, which is to empower every person or organization on the planet to do more, to achieve more. And so when I think about my friends playing on their phones, I think about the fact that they can pair a Xbox controller with Bluetooth onto those phones, and they can play whatever game's on there. And so in the future, when cloud gaming does become a thing and you're in your transit, you'll be able to play those games wherever you are, and they'll be able to follow you around. So it's really cool. And of course, there is sorry, Karen.
I was going to say, I think that something that came out of Thailand again at the trainer, and again, it's not something we could probably share too much on, but there was a gaming keynote that we attended from one of the guys from Xbox, and it was super kind of obvious that all they want is for people to be able to play games wherever, whenever, however, and it was less about the platform and more about the experience that the end user is going to be having. And I think that to me was a big kind of realization that we're making this paradigm shift in actually going, well, hang on, it's about the gamer, it's about the experience, about the end user.
And in the past, that was something that we were criticized on, with making a platform that was also looking at the other things going on in the living room, entertainment-wise, etc., and not just focusing on that game first. And that's very much something that Xbox has been about now. So I'm really excited to see what they come up with, how it lands, and how consumers are best sort of served in that spot. Cool. There's a lot of really cool stuff going on in Xbox, and I won't dive too deep into this today, but Microsoft is looking at how to address toxicity in the gaming world again. And so Xbox has been very much focused on this. We've all heard stories about the focus on gamer experience and making an inclusive environment. That's where the adaptive controller came from. And so this set of new plans for community gaming was talked about from Phil Spencer. I'm sure we'll hear more about it in the near future, but that's something that I will sort of point out right now, and we'll get to a bit later. But on that same inclusivity bit there, subtitles have launched within PowerPoint on Office 365. So when you go within a PowerPoint on 365, you'll launch up PowerPoint underneath where where in presenter mode, you can see a few little options down the bottom, just underneath where you can see your screen. There's an option there to click on for subtitles, and you're able to turn that directly on. And you can do that in the ribbons as well. And if you can't find where it is under your presentation, you can just search it and tell me. But now you can have real life subtitles coming from what you're saying, just underneath your slides, or in fact to the left or to the right of them or above it. And you can make it work with having a cleared out black box, so minimizing your screen size of your slide to make a bit of room for your captions down the bottom. How that works is, as you speak, that speech is being shipped off into the Azure cloud, an analysis on your voice is being made, and then the text is coming down onto your device. And I think this is a really great move for inclusivity in how we work and how we talk at universities, schools, one-on-one presentations. Often those people with hearing difficulties won't tell you that they have hearing difficulties, and just making that option available for you to read, I think, is a massive step forward.
Yeah. Can I tell you a story, Dmac?
Go for it.
And this is legit. So I'm on the Office Insider program, which anyone can be on. And so the subtitle thing has been coming for a while now. It's sort of built in, but there was talk about translate function. And so I tested it the other day. My mum's a French teacher, and I got her to test it, both English in and French out, and French in and English out. And she said that she was astonished at the accuracy that came out on the other way. So imagine being able to, like, we go to a TTT and there's guys from, not non-English speaking countries, but people who struggle with English, and being able to do that, like, how amazing that. And I'm sure that that's got all to do with the power of, Azure and our data centers as well too.
Yeah, it's really cool. You can actually go to the translation tool, the Microsoft translation tool. If you search it, it'll come up in a browser. But even right now online, you can use that tool. And it's always been sort of its own segmented piece for talking in and translating out. But now it's been built into our tools, which I think is really cool.
Yeah.
We've had 1903, which is officially called the March update, I believe. It was launched in May, so we might be calling it the May update, but 1903 was made sure to work properly before it landed on our customers' devices. Last year, you might remember the fact that 1809, the end of year update that was supposed to launch in October, ended up coming down really late because there were some issues with it. Microsoft pulled it to make sure that it was perfect before customers had it on their devices, and we've got 1903 now on our devices. And tell you what, it has brought some amazing short inclusivity experiences where subtitles and things I can manage directly from my settings menu, but also just the way that the menus are built, the way that dark mode and light mode is built into and through my device, and the new features on there. Like on Windows 10 Pro, I can build a sandbox straight from my device, which is Windows Sandbox is where I can make a virtual Windows as an application on my PC, and I can install applications on there to make sure I can test it that it's safe before it runs. And yeah, it used to be a pro feature that only professionals could get their hands on, but now it's on all Windows 10 Pro devices available to download. And if it hasn't downloaded onto your device just yet, will in the near future. It's a staggered launch through Windows updates, but you can go to the update assistant on the Microsoft website and push the update down to your device as well. But in line with that, we've had Computex in Taiwan, and the news coming out of there has been astonishing. The PC landscape, I think, has been steadily improving. But competition between AMD and Intel has been at the forefront of a lot of the innovation, especially in the hardware space in the last sort of short period of time. And now AMD are going to be launching their Ryzen 3000 series, or their third gen Ryzen series, for desktop PCs and mobile platforms. This is a massive step up. There is more cores, better efficiency, way better power for a lower price. And so we should see.
Oh no.
Oh no.
I think we lost him on the Ryzen 3000.
We did. Look at him. Bless him.
I can guess some of what he was saying, but it'll be good to get him to add into it when he gets back with us. But seeing those Ryzen computers, especially with OEMs like HP putting them in Envy machines, and that being able to physically see that evolution of their processor is really important, because we can talk about processors, but not necessarily everyone's going to understand about them, right? But being able to, now that AMD has a processor that fits into a premium machine or a modern device where it's slim, it's going to be able to run the best of Microsoft. I think that is a way for us to show you the value, and that means it's good, right? Because competition is a good thing at the end of the day, and that competition does spur big advances. So no, definitely a really, really exciting thing to come out of Computex.
Yeah, absolutely. Dmac, welcome back.
Thanks, friends.
We need a digital drum roll.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. A little bit more editing for you, Fletch.
Glitch in the
That's all
matrix.
good.
Yeah, the Teams app just went.
Well, Fletcher managed to kind of talk a little bit more to what you were talking about the competition between AMD and Intel and how that's a good thing for the industry and things like that as well.
Good job, Fletch.
Oh, thank you, friend.
What other news have you got for us, bro?
So Intel launched their 10th generation CPUs, which is for those tech heads out there, on a 10nm platform, which they've been trying to do for a very long time. And in the past, 10 nanometers, for those that aren't super techie, it's the size of the transistors and how many that you can put on a CPU platform effectively. So you can put more transistors, which are little thinking tools on a CPU, the bits that deal with the ins and outs. You can put more on a CPU if you have a smaller process, which is that 14nm, which is what Intel have been basically on in the past, now to 10nm, which is what Intel are launching in the near future. And there's a lot of really cool technologies on there, like Wi-Fi 6, and how Thunderbolt will be supported natively from the CPU. So there's less components in laptops, which is more savings, more power savings, and that's really cool as well. So we're seeing some real good progress, and that's what I'm really excited to see. So we're going to be seeing some really great new laptops, like HP have launched laptops with real wood built into them.
Really?
And so there's an actual wood finish on them, like the old wood TVs that you would get back in the day.
Like I remember.
And also a lot of PCs with another screen under the screen. So
yeah,
there's
heard
a screen
about that a
at the
little
top
bit.
and then a screen just beside where the keyboard is. So you have a keyboard at the front. You can have a screen there for pinning YouTube videos or text your notes. Your OneNote can go in there.
Wow.
That's cool.
So
that's very cool.
Really exciting stuff. And we're seeing modern PCs really come out.
Awesome.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Dmac,
And that's
thank
the
you
news.
very, very much, mate. I appreciate you jumping on and giving us he adds a bit of class, a little bit of actual technology to the podcast. Professionalism, yeah. Let's call it that. A nice neat little bundle.
Well, I had to do something because this podcast is pretty average otherwise. So
yeah.
This is going to be the last time Daniel Mcavoy is on this podcast.
Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. All right, well, let's wrap it up there because we have gone a lot longer than we normally do. I think we've done. Oh, Fletch.
He's gone. He's done.
I
That's
took
it.
a trick out of
Done.
your book,
I
and
dropped.
he's gone. Yeah.
Oh dear. This is quite funny. The guy that's in the office today is having the most internet connectivity problems.
No,
may
I
have
got kicked off this
removed
call. Yeah, Fletcher was so unhappy with my
I was
performance.
so
that he kicked
salty
the
that I took him
podcast.
out.
That's used.
Mate, let's be honest.
Oh dear. All right, well, let's wrap it up there, guys. Thank you very much for joining and talking through all of your expertise. It's been a really good podcast. It might have been slightly longer than normal, but I definitely feel that the information was relevant. It was fun, it was unique, and it was great to listen to you guys talk. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in. As always, this is number 48 now. We'll have to do something special for number 50.
You know what I collect? It's going to be the
Which-
week of one of our favorite events.
Oh, that is even better. That is even better. So we'll have a E3 edition 50th birthday podcast. Oh my goodness. All right. Well, guys, thanks very much for joining. Thanks very much for tuning in. And for all of the latest social posts and things like that, keep it locked to our Facebook and Twitter feeds. But as always, for all your latest courses and accreditations, keep it locked to Expertzone. See you later. That was the closest I think I ever came to love at that age. I fell in love with this Tamagotchi because it was a dinosaur.